I'm delighted to welcome Darryl Flahavan. How you doing?
Mate,
You okay?
okay?
Although everyone pronounces your name wrong, don't they? Isn't it? You always tell me that it was actually Flahavan. Isn't that the right way to pronounce it?
Flahavan, yeah.
Yeah, which I'm not too sure how it ended up just being wrong everywhere from Southend from day one, didn't it? Really. So
yeah. I just got to a point where I just couldn't be bothered to correct anyone. So you just sort of left.
It's a bit like Kevin Mayer as well, because I think it's actually Mar. So yeah, between the two of you, I know you played about 700 games between you, and we all pronounced your name wrong. So it's strange.
Never mind, eh? As long as
but
I've been called a lot worse, Chris, anyway. So,
yeah, brilliant to have you on. Definitely one of my favourite former Southend players. So if we start off with your career, you were initially at Southampton, weren't you, as a player? That's where you sort of came through the ranks. Was that where you first started?
Yeah. So I started at Southampton at my hometown club. Obviously went through this sort of the youth setup there and into the scholarship as it is now, and then on to the professional there. Where I was on the bench a few times in the Premier League, but I never got the chance to play there, and then obviously ventured out into the big wide world and started there.
Yeah, and it was at Woking, wasn't it? Did you get released by Southampton? Was that tough at the time, or did you sort of go there wanting first team football, or what was the sort of thinking at that point in your career?
Well, it was difficult because it was a different era back then, where probably the average age of squads back then were probably in their late 20s, early 30s, and you weren't really considered to play as a goalkeeper at that level probably until your late 20s, early 30s. So I always knew it was going to be tough. So and probably the roundabout of managers at the time, that every season Southampton seemed to have had a new manager, and you always worked your way up with one, and then the next season going into working with another. And out of all the pro goalkeepers there, I was always the youngest one by a few years. So every time I went in, I was always the young one again. So eventually at the end of my contract, it wasn't renewed, and it was time for me to go out and start playing and finding my way in the world. So Woking gave me that opportunity, and from there, it as a young goalkeeper back then, it gave me the opportunity to showcase what I had.
Yeah. And how did it go on from Southend? I think you were right in saying, didn't you take a pay cut to sort of join Southend, but you were just so eager to sort of get into the football league? Is that right?
Yeah. It was quite ironic, really, because I was actually earning more money there than what Southend were offering me at the time. But I didn't, like, at that time, it wasn't about the money. Obviously, it was an opportunity for me to play in the football league and to give me an opportunity to sort of build and grow my career. So at that time, it wasn't anything to do with the financial side of it. It was just a case of, it was a high level and more exposure and a great opportunity. So I took it.
Yeah. And how do you look back at those sort of early days at Southend? I think you had to wait a little while to get into the team. Wasn't Andy Woodman there on loan? So the sort of bedding in period, and then sort of really got your chance and made the most of it.
Yeah, I think I was a couple of weeks. I remember going in, and manager David Webb at the time said to me that they had Woody was on loan from, I think it was Brentford, something like that. But I think his loan was coming to an end at the end of the month, and he just said, just I think the end of the month, I'm going to play you. So he just said, just wait for the loan to run out, which was 2 weeks. And he said, then you'll play. So it was good because it gave me a chance to bed in, get to know the lads a little bit, and just really prepare myself for a couple of weeks' time to start playing. So it wasn't the worst thing, because it gave me a chance to get to know the lads a bit and get to know the surroundings and the area and that. And then I came in a couple of weeks later and never looked back, really.
Yeah. And what was it like? What were your early memories? Obviously, when we talk about Southend now, thank you, we always sort of think about the highlights that you went on to have, which were fantastic, and we'll touch on them a bit later. But the first few games, were you nervous? Were you confident? Or how were you sort of feeling going into all of those?
Yeah, a little bit of everything, really. I think you always have that little bit of nerves because you're so desperate to do well. I think the first game I had was Carlisle away, and it was
a nice local one to start with.
Yeah, away at Carlisle, the other end of the country. First game, So yeah, all of those emotions were coming out, nerves, excitement. But once the game kicks off and you sort of get in that zone, you're sort of just concentrating on your job and trying to do your job for the team. So yeah, it wasn't the greatest start because I think we lost 3-1. But I think overall I was pleased with the performance. It was we just didn't as a team really do well on the day. And but again, it was great for me. It was the first game. I got that one out of the way, and was just building from there really.
Yeah, and you quickly got a great relationship going with the fans, didn't you? They always had a good bond between you, which you seemed to strike up quite quickly.
Yeah, no, it was brilliant. How quickly it all sort of started there, because I think the first thing every player wants to do is try and win over the supporters, and luckily enough, it happened really quickly for me, and obviously I had to, get those performances in for, if you're not performing, the fans ain't gonna take to you, so I had to get those performances in and then build that relationship with them, and then we went on from there, and as it grew and grew, it was brilliant. I felt really, I think that was a massive part of why I did well there, because I felt very accepted there and very well liked, and I think that played a massive part in why it was so successful at the time for the club and for myself.
Yeah, and it was two spells though, wasn't it? Because your first one, I always remember finding it very odd that you were released. That was a difficult time, but it was seriously, it was a very hard part of your life, wasn't it? Where you were going through an awful lot, and I always thought that, probably easier for me, so the club should really have done more to help you. I always felt that you weren't really probably looked after when you really needed it.
It was a really difficult time because my brother had just passed away that year, and I didn't have any family. My mum then moved away. I didn't have any family, so I was on my own. Obviously, I mentioned it to the club. The club knew, but they didn't at the time. Didn't do a lot to help me. And the new manager came in, and yeah, it was disappointing, to be honest with you. I felt at the time,
Yeah,
but I think maybe it was, I think the manager at the time wanted to bring someone else in that he knew, and I think it was probably he used it more as an opportunity, maybe to do that. And yeah, that was probably the only disappointing thing at my time, because I
yeah.
was a young man at the time that probably needed a bit of help, and that never happened. But it made me stronger, made me wiser, and it wasn't too long before I came back and came back to the club and just kicked on again from there.
Yeah, obviously we're fundraising for mental health today. Do you think, fast forward to nowadays, that there is more help hopefully there is for players that are struggling? Do you think it's a better
Absolutely.
place now, football? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, a lot of people are struggling to deal with things at the time. I know I was dealing with a really traumatic bereavement that I found difficult. And at that time, there was no help. I was 22, 23 at the time. And I just probably lost the most important person in my life. And I never really got any help at all.
Yeah.
Which, when you look back now, if this situation had happened again, there'd be so much support for people, regardless of what job they do, there'd be loads of support there. So unfortunately, no, it wasn't. And, and that's probably not just me, it's probably a lot back in those days. It was more like just trying to just get on with it. But, we're all human, and, like I say, we all find it difficult. I found it difficult at the time and made some bad choices, probably because of that, that you probably wouldn't now, because you do obviously get a lot of support. So, the way it's going now, it's great for people
Yeah.
that are dealing with any emotional support or mental health issues that they have, that the support's there for them, because it really is needed, and it can stop somebody spiraling into a dark hole, which can happen if they
Yeah.
don't get that sort of help. So, it's all for the good now, which everyone's in complete support of.
Yeah. And obviously the manager that did let you go then was still the manager when he wanted you to come back. So was that a little bit bizarre? Was there a little bit of you that thought, oh no, screw you, you got rid of me? Or did you always just think, oh, I wanted to come back to Southend?
Yeah, I think obviously at the time it was quite disappointing, because I think, even at the start, I think I was an important player. So I was a bit disappointed, like, he may have found at that time that my behaviour was a bit erratic because of obviously what I was going through. But all it would have taken is probably to sit down and have a chat and got me probably the help that I needed. But, never mind, these things happen. And when I went, it wasn't too long before he called me back and wanted me to come back to the club. So there was no hard feelings. It was just to get the opportunity to come back at the club. And again, because of the relationship I had with the supporters and everybody there, it was quite easy. There were other options, and at a higher level as well. But I felt it was the right thing for me to do, was to come back, because I had unfinished business. Like, I think history is now told that I had unfinished business there, and I felt that I could do something there and be somebody there. And luckily enough, that gave me the opportunity to come back to do that.
And the club really, and Stu Tilson came in, and it just flew, didn't it? It went from there, the momentum that come in with that team that you had when we had Kevin earlier. So him and Gower and Freddie, that team, just Adam Barrett, just flew, didn't it? And it was just an incredible time for the club.
Yeah, it was, like I say, sometimes, the fate can kick in. Like I said, would have been easy. I could have moved on to other things. But, I do believe in fate, and I do believe it was fate that I went back to the club to be part of what we achieved. It was just a great time, to go on the path that we went on and achieve what we did was incredible. And at the time, you don't really think, you obviously realizing that, the what we were doing, promotions, the cup runs, and like we were. But at the time, you're sort of just so professional and focused on what you're doing. You don't realize what you're achieving in the club's the history at the time. So, when you look back and think of what we've done, it's it's a very, very proud time. And like I said, probably the
Well, so we had the first promotion via the playoffs, didn't we? I think you took quite a nasty whack early on, didn't you? Remember you almost saying you were seeing double at some point during that playoff final against Lincoln. Do you remember too much about it?
Well, I'm lucky as a goalkeeper. I got hit in the head quite a bit, so I think I became quite robust. But yeah, I did get hit quite hard pretty early, and I do remember it being I think I did take a standing 8 count, I think. And luckily enough, I wasn't knocked out. So yeah, I remember feeling a bit groggy in the first half of the game, and but luckily enough, I got through it, and that was the first big hurdle for us as a team and as a club to get over, to get onto the road and the journey we were on to where the next few years then came from after that. So it was luckily enough I got through it. Yeah.
And then I remember the year after, we sort of went into League One thinking that we do well to sort of stay in it, and you're going to try and sort of stabilise and push on. But no, we just won the league. It was incredible, really, when you look back at that season in particular. It was just amazing. What do you remember about being the League One champions?
I remember. I think the first game or so or two. I don't know
we
if
lost on the opening day.
Yeah, I remember losing the first game. I remember going to Bradford, I think it was, and I think they were. I think they might have come down from the Championship, or but they had a good squad at the time. I think we went there and won 2-0, and it seemed like you could just feel that it was a bit of a momentum shift. And I think after that, we then went on a run, and then I can't remember every small detail that season, but it just felt like we never lost. I think we just felt like every game we went out, we got a result, and like you say, momentum. It was an amazing momentum shift, because it felt like every week we were winning things. My daughter walking around the back of me.
That's
it just seemed like we couldn't lose, and we were so confident. And at the time, you don't realise the good players that you had in the dressing room and on the pitch. And you can say, when you look back on the squad, we had some great players at the time, and they were all hitting their peaks probably at the right time. And it seemed like every team we faced, we always seemed to get those results. And once we got a grasp on that top spot, we never let it go. And shows like the character that we had in the dressing room and the ability that we had in the dressing room at that time to achieve that, because it's not easy, it's difficult.
It was great togetherness as well, wasn't it? It was that real team spirit, which was worth a few points. You might not have had we definitely didn't have the biggest budget or necessarily the strongest squad, but just that spirit meant so much.
Yeah, we all got on really well. We all, we always had a few nights out together, and when we could, probably a bit different to now. When we had an opportunity to go out and have a few beers together, we did. We were good mates.
Still do the Michael Jackson dance? Do you still know the routine off by heart? Is that still your party piece?
Yeah, I always throw that one on. Yeah, especially when I get the opportunity to do it. We were all mates, and we all looked out for each other. And one of us got it. We backed each other up, and went after anyone that tried to stop us trying to achieve what we wanted to achieve. So it's. You don't necessarily get that anymore because of the way football's going, but it's a massive, massive part of the game. It's team spirit, and it's probably not as much there as it was back when we were playing. But it is a massive part of a successful team is having a good squad that all look out for each other.
Yeah. Definitely. And from there, obviously, we went into the Championship, and that season's always going to be remembered for the Manchester United match. It's probably your most sort of famous match as well. What are your memories of that night?
I get a lot of people still talking to me about it now. I think that I don't think we're in great form going into the game in the league. And I think we then obviously drew Man United in the cup, and then we were unsure about what sort of team they'd put out, because they were in the Champions League at the time. I think they were top of the Premier League. And the previous round, they'd played Crewe, I think it was.
Yeah.
And they put a lot of the young players out. So we didn't know whether they were going to, obviously we were a Championship side at the time. We didn't know whether they were going to put a strong side out or mix it up a little bit. And it wasn't until really I think I was out warming up with Lee Turner at the time, the goalkeeping coach, and I think they read it out over the loudspeaker. I think the team sheets had gone in, and I was already out warming up. And then obviously you heard the players that were on their team that night. I heard it over the loudspeaker at Roots Hall. So obviously me.
What was your first impression then when it was number 7 Ronaldo and number 8 Rooney?
Well, I sort of had a grin on my face, and then I remember we were doing a warm up drill, and then as the warm up drill finished, and just having a little bit of recovery time, I think me and LT walked to each other, and he looked and he said, "You're going to be busy tonight, Flabs."
You better warm up a bit more.
Yeah. And then obviously it was live on Sky at the time, and there was a lot of media attention on the game, so I thought, hopefully we don't get too embarrassed here, and it doesn't get a bit ridiculous. So I felt I need to probably pull off some saves tonight or put in a performance just to try and keep the score down, because at the time you want to go in and be come on, we can win this, but at the time you're thinking you're up against a world-class team here, and as long as we don't embarrass ourselves here, hopefully we'll come off all right. So to go out and obviously win the game and keep a clean sheet against the caliber of player they had was unbelievable. And it sort of puts you on a different level, because it boosts your profile, boosted everyone's profile, the clubs at the time. So it was an unbelievable night. I still remember it very clearly, even though it was 16, 17 years ago.
It was. Yeah, don't tell me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, amazing how time flies. So just an unbelievable time, So I was
it was you against Ronaldo, seemingly though, wasn't it? It just became almost like a personal duel. He just sort of time and time again.
Yeah, it was. Just seemed that just kept raining down shots, and then he had one, and then he just thought, right, I'm not having this. I am going to score. So he just seemed to obviously get an opportunity to get shots off from around the box, and he did. And yeah, he could certainly hit the ball well. People say to me, that yeah, he could hit a ball so hard, and his technique he used, he made the ball move so much. But luckily enough, it was my night, and I'd worked hard up towards that game to be ready for it. And luckily enough, I was.
Yeah, and is that still the match that people talk to you about the most, or how's it been since then?
Yeah, I think so. Luckily enough, I had a long career and played a lot of games, but yeah, it is the one, which isn't bad.
No, of all the ones to have, yeah, it's
that
quite
was,
good.
that you talked about against Manchester United and Cristiano Ronaldo, probably the world's greatest ever player, one of the world's greatest ever players. It was a great compliment, and something I'll always be proud of and look back with a lot of fondness.
Yeah, and how was it coming to leave Southend? How tough was that decision when that sort of transpired and it was the end of your time at Southend United, which I think would have been around about sort of 2008, wasn't it? I think you had the sort of season.
Yeah, I think it was around about then. Yeah, 2008, 2009. I didn't really actually want to leave. I was in the process of trying to sort a new contract out at the time. I wanted to stay in and for 10 years and have my testimonial there. It only happened where, if I put it mildly, I was getting messed around.
Yeah.
And I was speaker to the club at the time, and the manager at the time, and I just felt like they were stalling a lot on everything. And then obviously got some interest from other clubs. And then I think the chairman, I spoke with him, and again felt like I was getting messed around a lot, to a point I've just sort of basically said that you need to obviously be clear with me on what you're going to do or what you're thinking, because obviously I've got family to support, and it was just the case that I just felt like I was getting messed around. And I had two big clubs that showing me, and that put something on the table. I went back again to Southend, and they couldn't give me an answer on a new contract, which I was amazed. Because I was still in my prime, and I'd obviously performed the way I did. I think we got relegated, and we still made the League One playoffs, and I'd still put in another great season. And I just felt that all of a sudden I wasn't wanted for one reason or another. Again, you'd have to ask, probably at the time Steve was in charge, and Ron was obviously the chairman at the time. You'd have to ask them, but I felt like they didn't really want me to stay, and they wanted me to move on, so I did. So I went to Crystal
Palace, wasn't it? You went to? Was that
Yeah.
Neil Warnock? Was he a manager there, Neil Warnock?
Yeah, Neil Warnock was the manager at the time. Obviously, very charismatic, and it was an opportunity to join a big club that were pushing to get in the Premier League. So at the time, it was probably the right thing. Looking back, it probably wasn't, but at the time, I thought it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, and how do you look at your career sort of post-Southend? Because it was revolving, wasn't it? The sort of evolution of the goalkeeper. It was sort of quite tougher to sort of get consistent first-team football, because clubs only seem to sort of have one keeper and get loans in, and it just seems to sort of be the way that it was going.
Yeah, it was. Obviously, I've spent so much time at Southend and playing regularly. I think Crystal Palace probably was a mistake, because I went in there and then competing with a club legend, really. Julian Speroni was there at the time. Well, I felt so confident, and given the opportunity, I could do it there. But I went in, and I felt again I wasn't given all the answers that I asked for, and I thought the opportunity would be there, but it didn't. Julian was the goalkeeper there. He started and was so good that he stayed in, and I had to play second fiddle. I tried doing a couple of loans to get some games. I went to Oldham, I went to Leeds, I had an injury at Leeds. So it was a bit stop-starty, and then I went to Portsmouth. That was an emotional one, because obviously my brother was there. So and it gave me an opportunity to move my family back down to Southampton, down that area where I'm from. So I took that. Career-wise, it wasn't a great move for me. They just come out of the Premier League. But it gave me an opportunity to move my family back down to the South Coast. So I took that. But then luckily enough, it gave me the opportunity to go to Bournemouth the season after. And, being at Bournemouth at that time was a great time for me as well, because to go from League One, pretty similar to Southend, we went from League One to the Premier League. So to be part of that was excellent as well. So, it was a bit stop-starty after Southend, but, it was... I was luckily enough to sign my first professional contract at 17, and then to play till I think 38 was a fantastic innings for me. So I was delighted to look back on my playing career and mass 400, nearly 500 games. So I couldn't have asked for any more. Premier League would have been the one, but obviously I didn't get that opportunity. I came close, but it never happened for me. But I look back on it with a lot of fondness. Yeah, definitely.
And you stayed in the game straight away, went into coaching. How did you find that transition?
Yeah, it was. I had an opportunity to join the Leeds coaching staff. Gary Monk was the manager. I knew Gary from my playing days at Southampton. Needed a goalkeeping coach, and I was sort of in the transition at the time. I was 38. And I started taking my coaching badges at Bournemouth, and it was something that I knew I wanted to do when I finished playing. And it all fell into, it fell in quite nicely, because I had in the back of my head, I wanted to be playing till I was 40. I wanted to have an opportunity to be a player still at 40, and I wasn't far from. I was only, I think, about a year and a half from that. But then this opportunity to join a massive club like Leeds as their first team goalkeeping coach, I thought was too good to turn down. So I got off the chance. Gary gave me probably about 24 hours to make that decision. And I took it. And it was a great transition, because I was sort of ready for it. And it's completely different to playing. But something that I took on well. I was heavily invested in it. It's something I could then get my teeth into again, and it was great. And learning and progressing as a coach from then on. I've had some great experiences from then as well. So I was lucky. Well, not lucky. I was grateful to have started at such a big club like Leeds United.
Yeah, you've been to a few different clubs since then as well, haven't you? So you've worked with some really good goalkeepers.
Yeah. Like I said, I've been very fortunate to work with some really good goalkeepers. I've been obviously up to Middlesbrough, to Birmingham, Sheffield Wednesday, and most recently Wigan Athletic. So, I've had the chance to work with like international goalkeepers, former Premier League goalkeepers, up and coming young goalkeepers that have moved on and had big careers. So, it's again been another great journey for me from playing into coaching. So I've been really fortunate to have had some great experience on this side of it as well.
Yeah, and were you coaching the Taiwan national team? Did I see the other day? How did that?
I had an opportunity to go out to Asia to do some work with them while they were preparing for their World Cup qualifying games. It was an experience. I thought I've never been over to that side of the world before. So when I got asked to do it, to work at international level and to get an opportunity, I thought, why not? So I just got back from there yesterday, 2 games out there, and it was a really good experience. And the opportunity I think could come along again in a couple of weeks. I think there's another international out in Oman and Malaysia, so again possibly could do that as well. And then just see what happens again at club level over the next.
You're hungry to get back in. You're looking. That's what you want to do. You want to get back
yeah. Again, I'm open to a lot of things, and obviously the goal is to obviously get back into club football, to be back working on a day-to-day basis. But at the minute, the opportunity to work at international level, and just take it one step at a time. So, like I said, I'll see what happens over the next few weeks. There's an opportunity to work with the Taiwan national team for the next 2 World Cup qualifiers in the Middle East and Asia. So that could be something I'll be doing in the next few weeks. And at the minute, I'm just sort of taking it one step at a time and just enjoying it one step at a time at the moment.
Brilliant. And it's Southend are playing Solihull tomorrow. So is your boy Aaron still there, or what's his
he is.
situation?
Yeah. He is. He's in the squad, so he'll be there again. He's travelling tomorrow, so he'll be on the bench. I don't think they put one on the bench, but he will be there as the backup goalkeeper tomorrow. So, he's looking forward to that. We've had a chat about it today, actually. So I said I'll get Chris to give you some exposure again. So
yeah, definitely. I can't say hello.
He's looking forward.
I'm still awake because I've got to do this 24-hour challenge. So I might get him to bring me some Red Bull or something.
Yeah. He said he enjoyed it last time. So he expects that now every time he comes back to Root Hall. So I said, you better not expect the red carpet out every time you go there, mate. So yeah, he's looking forward to it. Yeah.
And do you still keep an eye out on Southend as well? Obviously, your former teammate now, Kevin Mayer, as head coach in charge, doing a good job. You still keep an eye out for it?
Yeah, always have a little look. You know, it's good because obviously my son's at Solihull and Southend in the same league, so I always have a little look at how the results are going. So yeah, still a vested interest in Southend. So I just hope they can obviously kick on, you know, and at some stage in the future get back into the league and up the leagues again where they belong. Because it's, you know, like I say, it's great, but you know, a club like Southend, you know, we just keep our fingers crossed that it gets back to where it belongs, you know, and that's back at a good level in the English leagues of football. We know that's where it should be.
Definitely. And we've got a lot of comments about people wanting you to come down for a game at Root Hall soon. So you need to come and see us if you're free anytime soon. So
yeah. Obviously, if I can, depending on like my schedule and that, there's an opportunity to come back. I will. I think I played in one a couple of years ago there. So if an opportunity comes up again, you know, I will try my best to get back there and to get back onto the pitch at Root Hall and. Yeah, it might be a little bit slower than I used to be, but yeah, definitely. If an opportunity comes up, I'd definitely like to come back. Yeah, of course.
Brilliant. And last one, I've had lots of people asking this. Do you still remember the song about hating Colchester? Is that still? Do you still remember the chant? And do you still hate Col? Yeah, I've got lots of comments about it. So I don't remember the chant myself. Probably a while ago.
It was some chant. Yeah, I remember always doing a little shadow boxing at the end and things to it. It was. Yeah, I can't remember the actual, and I probably shouldn't say it because it probably had a few words in there I shouldn't be saying. But yeah, obviously I remember it. The fans used to see it quite a bit, and we used to have a bit of banter about it. And yeah, it was like I say, we had such a great relationship with them, and great camaraderie with the supporters there. It was something I always look back on, like I say, with great fondness. My time there and my relationship with the supporters there, it was fantastic.
Brilliant, superb. That is great. Tom, man, for coming on. Always a honour to talk to you. And I didn't mention the fact how you lied about your age through your whole career either. So,
well, I never did, to be honest with you. It was just everybody else did. I just thought I kept all right, fair enough. Left them to it. Yeah, left them to it, mate. So
brilliant. That's great. And I'll make sure I go and say hello to Aaron tomorrow. So massive thanks for coming on. Thank you very much.
No worries, mate. Good luck with everything.
Cheers.
Wish
Thank
you well,
you.
mate. Take care, mate.